Hi, welcome back to Waxing On. Today we're going to look at a trumpet player, and we've heard from him before. Yes, he's one of my favorites, but he's a little different than some of the other trumpet players I grew up listening to. I remember some of them have made a very indelible mark in the music. I think like Dizzy Gillespie. With Charlie Parker, they created the whole bebop sound, the whole style of music. And I remember seeing Dizzy, I've seen about 4 or 5 times over the course of his lifetime, and he stayed true to that same bebop style all the time. There's people like Freddie Hubbard that kind of changed a bit from when he was with the Jazz Messengers to when he went with Creed Taylor and was doing some more fusion type music, and then went to Columbia and he was doing another style. He didn't really develop anything new. He was just going with the times. There's one trumpet player that really stands out, and that's Miles Davis, and I've talked about him a few times on the show. He started out with Charlie Parker doing bebop, with people like Jerry Mulligan. He worked at Beagle Evans. He worked on creating Birth of the Cool jazz. Mulligan took that to the West Coast with Chet Baker and had what they call pipe and slippers jazz, which was a lot more relaxed, not as frantic as bebop, none of the high notes, just nice lines. And it's what really brought Chet Baker to the forefront. We've got Miles then moved on into modal music with John Coltrane. And again, a whole other style. So he's gone from bebop to cool jazz to modal through the 60s. A lot of the same music. By the end of the 60s, he was moving into more rock elements in his music. And it kind of led into fusion. Some of the players he had in his band were people like Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, Joe Zaldo. These guys went off, Wayne Shorter. These guys went off and created their own bands. We had Herbie Hancock with the Headhunters, Chick Corea Return to Forever, Joe Zaldo and Wayne Shorter with Weather Report. They all developed into a whole new style, but it was Miles that led the way. And you knew things were changing near the end of the 60s. He had a couple of albums, Nefertiti and Feed Kilimanjaro, and I suppose even A Sail Away, that had on the record jacket Directions in Music by Miles Davis. So you knew things were changing. So he's been at the forefront of changes in jazz from the 1940s right through to his death. It was always changing and always turning it somewhere different. And we have talked about his 70s period, the electric period, where a lot of great albums came out, a very unusual kind of music, all brand new for people. Even at this stage, 70s music, I'm talking 50 years later, I'm just beginning to really understand what was going on in some of that. I didn't understand it then, but there was something about it that still appealed to me. He had a hiatus for the latter part of the 70s, came back in the 1980s with a whole nother sound. This one was a lot more accessible to everyone. It was more melodic, more themes, and again, still with producer Tio Macero, who'd done all that other amazing work for him from the 1950s right through to the 70s. But he only did a few albums with Tio. We'll talk about them over the next few weeks. But there was an unusual album that came out in 1984, and I'm going to call it a bit of a collector's item because you don't usually see big jazz singles. And this one, it doesn't appear in a lot of places. It's hard to find. I've noticed a few spots where it's mentioned on the internet, but not like the other albums. It's a 12-inch EP. Try and get it without the glare. Miles Davis, Time After Time. Yes, Time After Time, the Cyndi Lauper hit. At this point in time, this album was came out around the same time as the You're Under Arrest, which had a couple of popular tunes on it, Time After Time and Human Nature. This one's backed with a song called Kadia. No actual inserts in it, just straight up vinyl. Cyndi Lauper's tune. And on You're Under Arrest is a very short version. This is an extended version of it. 12-inch single. 2 sides. And there is some great playing on here. It's a song people are familiar with. The background is it's almost like smooth jazz, the background. Miles' play, obviously unique as always, but to hear what he does with a popular tune and without getting too far out, staying pretty true to the melody, just changing a few things in there, how he can make those subtle changes and turn that into such a memorable performance is so unique. Just again, it's a tribute to his musicianship. The album itself, I'm not sure what it cost. It wasn't a lot. I tried to look online to see if I could find it, but no, I'm not seeing it around very many places. This was one that was co-produced by Miles. At this point, he's gotten rid of producer Tio Macero. Him and Robert Irving are producing this one. And again, you can hear a lot slicker sound. When he came back after the hiatus, the music had changed. It was more slick, it was more cool jazz. Trumpet playing was still what it was, but the context in which we heard it was very different from what we left off with in the 70s. You know, when we were looking at things like Get Up With It and Carta, those albums, they were really high energy, a lot of noise. This is all very different, mixed very differently, very accessible to people. If you get a chance to find one, I would think it's quite a collectible to have. Artwork by Miles. Kind of hard to see that. Sorry, I got a little blurry there. And again, I tried to go through the discography. I couldn't find it in there. A couple of places mention it. Yeah, usually I could go to one of his albums and find it in Wikipedia that gave you a whole breakdown on it. This was not one of those. And even under the singles, I didn't find it the other day when I was trying to check. But well worth checking out. If you get a chance, go to streaming networks. The album called You're Under Arrest. You can hear a shortened version of this just to hear what I'm actually talking about. It was just so subtle, some of the changes he made to the melody and things he did, but it really put his stamp on it and showed how he could manipulate a popular tune into something that was all his own. So that's it for today. We're looking at the EP 12-inch single of Time After Time by Miles Davis, written by Cyndi Lauper. A collector's item for sure. Hope you join us later in the week. We'll be back with classic rock, and I'm going to try and follow the format we had previously. Appreciate you sticking with me. Subscribe. If you get a chance, share with your friends, and keep streaming that music. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.